David, if you could lead us off and get the discussion going, we appreciate it.
Okay. Thank you. I'm happy to be here. My name is David Long. I'm with an organization called Law Enforcement Against Prohibition. I'm a recent addition as a speaker with that organization. That organization believes that the current war on drugs is a failure, and that prohibition should end, and drugs should be, all drugs should be legalized, and so they can be controlled and regulated. I can tell you a little bit about myself, since I'm sure none of you probably know me. I'm an attorney, and after some years after graduating from law school, I decided to become a federal agent. I was a federal agent from 1995 to 2003. I was primarily tasked with working non-drug related organized crime. I was with the Office of Labor Racketeering, which is a specialized unit within the United States Department of Labor.
There was a reason why you guys are sitting next to each other.
And so, as you can see, there's not a clear connection with drugs and that position. However, and for some years there wasn't for me. But I'll back up a little bit before I go into that. While I was in law school, I never thought well, LEAP didn't exist back in those days, but I never thought I'd be a part of an organization such as this. Back in law school, I had the opportunity to work one summer as an intern in the United States Attorney's Office in Philadelphia. And there, this was like 1989, during that time, crack cocaine was a big deal. And I had the opportunity to assist a DEA agent along with an assistant United States attorney on a what they call a continuing criminal enterprise crack cocaine distribution scheme out of North Philadelphia. And during sentencing of these individuals, who were probably most of them in their early 20s, I watched them being sentenced to decades in prison as a result of crack cocaine distribution. The amount of crack cocaine was could fit on this end of the table. At the time, it saddened me to watch a waste of human potential in front of me go down. Some of those people are probably still in prison. However, at that time, I was kind of the mindset, well, you do the crime, you do the time. And nothing really changed that, except I had a discussion that summer with an assistant United States attorney who was transferring out of drug prosecution into environmental crimes. And he'd said to me that the war on drugs was stupid. Those were exact words. And I kind of discounted what he said in a way, but it was somebody I respected, so I filed it away. So years later, as a special agent, working in Los Angeles back in 2002, 2003, we were working on an identity theft case that involved some elements of the Mexican mafia. And we had the occasion to, the investigation revealed that there was a link between these individuals in Santa Ana and some people in the Fresno area. So we ended up, make a long story short, executing a week's worth of search warrants up in the Fresno area and finding at one location in a very nice residential neighborhood, we found almost $1 million in cash, almost $300,000 in a pickup truck located outside the driveway, and 2 AK-47s. That is something that I had not dealt with ever, and we weren't prepared for that. What we figured out was that these individuals were setting up identities in the people whose identities they stole, and they would set up bank accounts to launder drug funds. That's one of the things they were doing. So at that time, it occurred to me that that drugs fueled and facilitated these non-drug related crimes. Shortly thereafter, I left the Office of Labor Racketeering. I now am a professor of criminal justice and legal studies at Chapman University, Brandman University, which is part of Chapman University here in the Bay Area. I started doing, as the insanity of California's incarceration rate became apparent to me, and the effect on minority communities in particular really caught my attention. I started connecting this insanity to the drug prohibition policy that we have in place now. That research led me to LEAP. I'm a firm believer in that only legalization with the concomitant control and regulation can really reform, can really bring about true reform. What we have now is not only is it morally bankrupt, it's breaking our country financially. We have in this country just decided that it's okay to throw away immense amounts of human capital by criminalizing drug possession or drug distribution, and by prohibiting it, all we've done is tell criminals and organized crime in particular that you take this market, because the market's not going anywhere. Commodities such as marijuana, people want it. People are going to use it, and organized criminals are going to figure out a way to bring it into the country.
David, let me ask you a question.
Yes.
So most of the law enforcement within LEAP is retired. Is that correct? Or
within LEAP? I don't know the answer to that question. I think most probably would be former or retired law enforcement. And
so the big trick here is getting active law enforcement to side with this argument. How are we going to do that?
I think that let me have an aside here. I watched the Oaksterdam raids a couple of weeks ago, and I watched the DEA agents, who primarily were there, walking down the street after the raid was over, and people screaming at them, and I wondered what was going through their heads. I was wondering whether some of them knew what they were doing was futile and a waste of time. I suspected some of them did. I suspect some of them didn't. If they were brought up in any manner like I was, it's drummed into you that drugs are bad. It's the drug that is bad. It's not the prohibitionist policy that makes things bad. A coca leaf or a plant, a marijuana plant, it doesn't cause people to kill each other. What causes people to kill each other are the policy that makes it illegal. And so people that are in the business of supply and production and distribution, if they have a dispute with each other, they kill each other. They don't go to court. They don't have contracts. So in answer to your question, I don't know if it's necessary to bring law enforcement, current law enforcement along. I think the real answer is at the grassroots. Law enforcement will always be beholden to the powers that be. So I think in large amount, active law enforcement would be beholden if we look at the Occupy Oakland movement and behavior of the Oakland police. But if a grassroots effort is mounted, I do believe that that will get the attention of the politicians. Drug policy reform is not going to come from the federal government, certainly. It's not even going to come from the state government. It's certainly, I mean, we look at Obama, it's not going to come from him. He said he's open to a discussion about legalization. I don't believe that. As soon as presidents down in Latin America started talking about legalization, they flew Joe Biden down to stop it. So it's a grassroots effort. I think the minority communities in particular need to really need to be convinced that legalization is a good thing and not a thing that will add disorder in those communities.